Hey all, welcome back to this Autodesk Build Series Part 3. So in this series we'll be talking about assets, and we'll be building a little bit on our previous two videos of permissions, how those have been set up in the project. And then also in Part 2 our forms and form creation and then those permissions within those. So leading into assets here, so first thing we're going to do is we're going to be setting up some assets, just getting some assets in the project. And just looking at the different structure that you can have for those assets, the location, categories, statuses. And then we're going to also be looking at customizing. So say we want something that's not out of the box, we want to have a specific status, we want to have a specific location or a specific form attached to it. I'll be looking at that. And then lastly, we'll be talking about creating asset QR codes. So creating a QR code that references the asset, scanning it on your mobile device, and then taking you directly to that asset. All right, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into ACC here. So just I'm in two accounts here, and I just want to show how the asset permissions work, how things are set up that allow certain people to do certain things and certain people not to do certain things. So on the right side here, this is the admin of the project. So the admin is like God in this project, and then we have our secondary user here on the left side that has been freshly added in and doesn't have any rights within the assets. So first thing you notice here is person recently added without rights can't create an asset. And if you notice here, we have the ability to create an asset. And then also, they don't have access to the settings, so they can't change any of the categories, the custom fields, status sets, or permissions within it. So let's just go ahead and let's just bring in some assets. So you can create assets one by one. You can also import them like so. And what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to grab this downloaded sample file. I already have this downloaded, so we're just going to bring this directly in right now. And just let's just take a quick look at this. So this is what this looks like. So really what it's looking for is an asset name, category, a description, optional, location, notice these are blank, a status. Well, where is it in the process? Is it installed? You can see we have like functional performance test. All this can be customized, and then a barcode, which is optional. And we're going to go ahead and create some barcodes in this today. So with that being said, let's jump back into ACC. Let's bring these assets in. So we're going to import these 4 or 5 assets, and let's go ahead and import these. Okay. Process going to take some time. We'll send you an email when it's ready. So this goes pretty quick, 5 assets, but picture if you had 1,000 assets, a large number, it would be spinning for a little while. So let's go ahead and close this here. I'm just going to refresh this. And okay, so we can see here's our asset. I'm just going to grab an asset itself, and this is what's running left to right here. So we have our name, our description, the status of it, category, location, unspecified, barcode, both unspecified. Okay, so let's just go over here to the left side and let's refresh this user too. All right, now we're refreshing our assets. So this is what we're going to talk about with our permissioning. So notice here we can see our permissions. We can see the asset because we've been given permissions to view them. So if I go over here and jump into my settings and go to permissions right here, you can see Nate account 2 as a user, I'm given view permissions. Now let's say let's just work backwards here and just say we delete this person. Let's just remove this. Remove Nate account 2 from this permission right here. And now these assets no longer exist. You can't even see them. So jumping back over to here, we can jump into permissions, and what we can do is we can like add in, like, now this is where you're getting into roles. So like say I believe Nate asset 2 is a BIM manager, and we'll see this once we add them in. But if we add them in, we can see actually we have both me and the both users have that role. So we can see Nate account 2 has now been added as a user so they can view. You also notice this is me right here that I'm on this screen. I'm also an admin as well. So even though I'm added in as a view user, the manage permissions take precedent. All right, so if I go over here and refresh, you can see that I have view permissions of these assets. Here they are, they're back now. And then notice here, I can't change anything. I can't change the location, nothing. I can add a reference if I wanted to, but I can't change anything to it. Whereas on this side here, as the admin of it, you have full control. So if I grab this asset right here, I have the ability to change the description, the status to any one of these, the category, location, you name it. So if we go ahead and just bounce out of here, let's take a look at our custom fields. So let's go ahead and we're just going to go left to right here. So I actually haven't been in models too much, but if the idea behind it is you can have a model that's stored in files, and then you can be taking assets out of that model. All right, so here's our categories here. So this came from our Excel file import. So these can be created on the fly, or you can be creating categories as you go and assigning assets to them. So one thing we're going to do here is we're going to add in a form template for our user 2 to fill out, so our QA/QC process. So form template right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to add in this asset checklist. So this is a template that lives over in forms. And we're going to go ahead and submit this here. So now an asset checklist has been added to all categories. And so what happens here on the left side, if I go ahead and grab any of the assets, like I'm just going to refresh because we made a change to them. If I go and grab any of these assets now, let's grab that first one there. References, we go to add references, and we'll say form. We're going to attach a form. And notice it says no form, so we need to create a form. So this would be if you were attaching an existing form, you would see it here if it was in progress and you had view settings of it, or a submitted form, you had view settings of it. But let's go to create form, and notice this asset checklist has been added to all categories. So this process over here really just steers you to it. So we say asset checklist, we're going to go ahead and add the reference here. And, oh, that's nice. Let's go ahead and refresh, and let's see if it actually attached it. Nope, let's go ahead and try it again. This might be an in progress form now. Oh, no. Go ahead and grab it now, add reference. All right, there we go. Now we have our asset checklist, which is in progress, okay? So what you can do, and we can do this if we have time at the end, is you go through and you fill out that form and you submit it. And you can have issues tied to it based on pre-configured questions. Say the asset was delivered and it was damaged, and if you, based on that answer, so like yes, it was damaged, then you create an issue from that, and then you're then tracking that in issues. But bottom line is, when you are a secondary user with view permissions, you have the ability to attach references to those assets. All right, so let's just talk about asset structure here a little bit. So what I want to do is I want to talk about, let's say we want to make changes to these assets. So for example, let's say we want to change some of these assets. Maybe we want to make some more assets, and we don't want to create them one by one. It can be really painful if you're going line by line. So what we're going to do is we're going to select all our assets here, and then we're going to say export. Okay, so we have options here, PDF, CSV, Excel file. So let's go ahead and just grab CSV file here. I'm going to go ahead and download this file. We're going to go ahead and open it now. Okay. Now notice here, this is our different format of our asset. So if we just grab this right here, we just go to format, we'll just auto fit the column width here. All right, so notice here, this is the unique ID of the asset. It doesn't really mean a whole lot to you, but it means something to ACC, especially if you get into Power BI. Here's our asset name right here, okay? So let's just say like, we want to like totally just rename these assets. We'll just call it like asset 1 now. And we'll make them in sequential order here. And what I'm really showing here is we're really overriding the assets. We're not creating new assets because they're going to have a unique ID right here. So if we're ever making any global changes to them, this is a great way to do it. Okay, so now let's go ahead and let's just kick in some barcodes. So these can be any sort of unique text. So they just need to be individual. So we'll just make it the same. Something like that. And we'll just leave the location blank, I suppose. We'll leave all the statuses as is. Let's go ahead now. And then let's go ahead and let's just close this, and we'll be back in ACC here. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and re-import that file. So we're going to go import some assets. And I'm going to go ahead and grab this from my downloads. Okay, now we're bringing in our new asset detail right here. We're going to go ahead and import. All right, so notice our name's updated here, and now we have barcodes in here as well. So let's go ahead and let's add in a custom field here. So custom fields. So we'll create a custom field, and let's just call this like unique ID, I suppose. So like maybe this is an ID. We have some sort of identifier that we have for this, and we'll just call this, let's call it a numeric. So it has to be a number, and then we're going to go ahead and create it. So we'll just call this ID field for the description. Okay, we'll go ahead and create this. So this doesn't mean anything unless we tell it to mean something. So we have the ID created, so it's basically saying where's it going to go now. And now we're going to grab our all categories here, and we're going to add a custom field in over here. So unique ID, numeric. Okay, now when we go back over here to our assets, right here, you see we have our unique ID right here. Now, one thing we could do is we could punch in our unique ID as if we wanted to. So like say like number 1, we have that. But say we have like a lot of assets and we want to do it all at once. We can do the same thing with that file export. So like, for example, say I want to put A in, you can't, it has to be a number. So let's go ahead and we'll just export this all one more time. And we'll do the same thing, CSV. Now we'll go ahead and grabbing our latest asset detail. Okay, waiting for this to open for a second. All right, there we go. So now notice here we have our names that have been updated, categories, and here's our unique ID. Let's just say these are like 1, 2, 3, 4. And we'll just make this all the same all the way across. And we'll go ahead and save it. Let's just go ahead and let's just punch in a new asset. So we'll just call this asset 6. We'll make this status, why don't we make this installed right here. And we'll make this barcode 6, and we'll make this 1, 2, 3, 4. So really what we're doing is we're just adding in another asset. So let's go ahead and save this now. And jumping back into ACC, let's go ahead and import our assets. Oh, looks like I had a mistake here with this format. I think it's that new one I added in. So let's see here. The category is required. I missed the category. So if we go ahead and grab this right here, so we'll go ahead and let's just expand this out a little bit. So we'll just copy this now, bring this in over here. So we need to have some sort of category set on that asset. All right, we'll go ahead and save this now. And then back in, we'll close it just for good measure. Back in ACC, go ahead and import our asset detail. All right, now our asset's been imported. I'm going to go ahead and close this now. Let's just refresh this. All right, so we go ahead and make this numerical here. So we have our new assets created. We have our barcodes created here. We're off and running. So just really easy ways to be like continuously updating your assets. You don't need to go through each one by one. You can add in a column, put in a unique ID if you wanted to. A lot of different, a lot of flexibility with working with them. All right, so let's say we want to create a QR code. And so there's two different ways you can create the QR code, and I'm more of a fan of the text format than the text format than actually grabbing the web hyperlink up here. And so the reason behind that is, so like let's say here's our barcode. Our barcode is 1, so that means it's really just looking for a barcode of text of 1 in the project. So a bunch of different ways you can create QR codes. You can use a QR code generator. We're going to use Adobe InDesign today. Really the bottom line is if you're making a couple QR codes, it's a lot easier just to use some generic, like one of those platforms. But if you have to make, I don't know, say like over 100, you got to do each one by one. It takes a long time. So there's some other platforms that really kick out QR codes in an efficient manner. So let's go into InDesign here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a QR code. So object here and then generate QR code. And then we're just going to do plain text, okay? So it doesn't matter what, it doesn't matter. So it's basically just saying, give me some text, go find. So we're going to say 1 here. It's going to go find our first asset. We'll say okay. And I'm just going to make this real nice and big. All right, so we have a QR code here. So now what we're going to do is we're going to grab our phone and we're going to scan this QR code inside the Autodesk app, and then we'll be off and running with that. So on my phone here, grabbing the ACC app. We're going to do a forced refresh of this project because we made some changes to it. And okay, change to assets. Let's go ahead and sync that down here. Okay, so now we're going to go into this project here, and you need to go under the More tab on the right side, and you go to Assets right here, and then in the bottom right you select Scan. Okay, so it's asking can I access your camera, say okay. And then let's go ahead and grab this asset right here on the screen, and then it takes me to Asset 1. So the reason behind using text is you need to be in the app to use it. You could use the URL to use like your camera. Say like when you're at a restaurant you want to scan it. It actually does work, but this is a lot faster to go this way. So just a little bit, in my 2 cents, I think it's easier to be using text. Okay, let's see, where are we at here? Let's go ahead and let's jump back into assets. Let's see if there's anything else that's worth our time. Barcode, let's see. Let's go into that first one right here, this reference, and let's see. Oh, this is because the other user attached it. It's in progress by them. So let's say this other user wants to complete this asset checklist here. Okay, so they click on that form that they attach. It's in progress. You can see here it's attached to the asset. And then so like delivery. So asset delivered with damage. So we'll type out right there, but let's say yes. Okay. So asset it's supposed to be without damage. So asset delivered without damage, yes, proceed, kicks you right through. And let's say if you say no, then it requires you to make an issue. So now you can make an issue that is then referencing that form that is attached to that asset. So it's a great way to be tracking your QA/QC process. We're going to be talking about issues next here, but having specific issues, specific forms, so that it directs you as a user directly to it when you're creating them. So just a little overview on creating these assets and then creating these issues, attaching it to forms, and then submitting it. So let's just go ahead and we're just going to do nothing here. We're just going to create just a general issue. All right, we have our issue right here. We're going to go ahead and submit our form. So we have our issue assigned, just a general unassigned issue. Go ahead and submit it. And then if we go back to our assets here, we're going to see we have this form that's been submitted. It's now closed. We can see our linked reference right here, asset checklist 14. References, our asset checklist is in progress. Oh, should be in closed state. So that's what I was expecting to see. So we go back over to assets here. Let's just double check here to make sure that that is closed. There we go. Now we're in the closed state. So a couple different ways: assets, importing them, updating them, creating new assets, all that jazz, and then creating barcodes and then scanning them and then being able to track them. So hopefully you found this helpful, and thank you for your time.